Gina hit me up and put the word out and said, yo, I got walls if you want to come paint, anybody, everybody. And I saw a couple artists from Greensboro who I've painted with before who were just out there. And I was like, all right, I like those folks. Let me at least show up, say hello. It's COVID time or whatever, what are we doing? I'm off from school. Murals are all gone. And, again, 24 hours to think of a great idea. And I'll tell you, I started off with just, a lot of the, everything's going to be all right. And some pop culture reference. And I wasn't really kind of like getting to where I needed to get to with this one. And I spoke to a friend and I said, hey, here are my ideas. And they were just like, have you ever researched Greensboro? And I'm like, yeah, it's famous for its sit-ins and stuff. And I was like, oh, I see what you did there, and I was like, ugh. But that didn't occur to me until I thought about it, until I put like my Stinka ideas down first. And then that's when it evolved. I started playing with the images of the Greensboro Four, and like I know there's that famous statue of them, and just started pulling in all available references that like could mood board what this image would be. And man, oh man, I was in love with that red leather on that seat. Chrome. I had a picture of it and I had like kind of put this soft filter on it, and all of a sudden it was just like, whoa. And I just thought, man, what a visceral thing, like to kind of come out of history.
I watched the protests happen. I very much was debating on coming downtown, because I do live very close to downtown, but also knowing I was about to go back to work. And really until we started this project, my fear of COVID was pretty high, and I was very content to work alone in my studio for several months. But then the call to action sort of happened, and Gina Franco did her first murals on Monday, June 2nd, or whatever that date was, right at the very beginning of June. I saw the post that evening. I immediately called one of my contacts here downtown, Hudson Hill, where I have consigned my artwork with for several years, to see if I could paint their building. Got in contact with Gina and Jen and said, how can I help? And I showed up the next day on Tuesday with a trunk load of paint and a ladder, and we just got going.
Well, I'm not technically an artist. I'm a college student majoring in kinesiology, and that has nothing really to do with art. But I'm like, well, I used to love doing art when I was a kid, like growing up. I used to like making art, making like short stories, and just being creative and just creating things. So I kind of tapped into that, and I was like, well, what can I draw or paint? I just started painting, and people would just come up to me like, oh, that's going to look really nice. And like, oh, that's going to turn out really good. Or like, what are you painting? I'm like, I'm going to say hands up, don't shoot. And like, oh, that's really good. So then the owners of the shop, or one of them came out and was like, oh, are you painting for us? I was like, yeah. And they're like, we've been waiting for somebody to paint for us. I'm like, oh, cool. Cause I didn't know if they're going to be like, actually, you can't be doing that or something. I was just like, let's just see how it goes. So I started, and then like in the beginning, I really didn't know how I wanted it to look like, because I've never made like a public piece of art before. So this one art teacher came up to me, and she gave me like a lot of good advice, and she also gave me some paintbrushes, and she helped me also with the idea of making hands, because at first I just wanted to put hands up, don't shoot. And then she was like, well, you can put hands on the side and then you can paint them in red. I was like, oh, that's a good idea. So then she helped draw, outline the hands for me, and that was really nice. So then it took me in total about 6 days to complete. And as I was painting, people would just come up to me and like talk to me like how you did. And I was explaining like what I'm doing. People would also come up and like take photos of me, and then they would share with me. So I'm glad people were able to just have that for me, because I was like, oh, I really did that. That really like inspired a lot of people.